What you guys got another video? Can we really stop Microsoft spying on Windows 11 or any other version of Windows? What you need to remember is the moment you start to install Windows on your computer is the moment that you're giving up your privacy for using that operating system. So let's go ahead and you can check the privacy statements, and you can also check the EULA, which is what you agree to when you're using their operating system. And it's been like this for years. So once you get to this stage right here and go next, you're going to see there'll be this popping up right here. Now, most people don't take the time to read any of this stuff, but if you did, you'll probably see that it will tell you about the harvesting of your information and data on that computer because you're using that operating system. We can go through here and have a look. And it says here, by accepting this agreement or using this software, you agree to all of the terms and consent to transmission of certain information during activation and during the use of this software as per the privacy statement described in section 3. If you do not accept or comply with these terms, you may not use this software or its features. And that's it. It says it right there in bold text. So what does it say in section 3? Let's take a quick look at section 3 and see what Microsoft have to say about your privacy. So privacy consent to use of your data. So your privacy is important to us. Some of the software features send or receive information when using those features. Many of these features can be switched off in the user interface, or you can choose not to use them by accepting this agreement and using the software. You agree that Microsoft may collect, use, and disclose the information as described in the Microsoft privacy statement, and it gives you the link right there. So straight away, you are agreeing to those terms when you are using a Windows operating system. So if you don't agree with Microsoft collecting some of the information and using it, then you have a choice not to accept it and not use their operating system. It's that simple. So I think to remember is this is Microsoft's operating system, and it's not open source, and all of the code is locked down, and there's not a lot else you can do apart from disabling a lot of features inside the privacy and security area, which is what they said you can do inside the terms conditions. So speech is one of the areas that people like to turn off. Inking and typing personalization. Again, this is basically using the typing and handwriting information that you use on the computer. You can turn this off as well. And these are all considered as the telemetry side of Windows. And you can just toggle this off, or you can set a group policy to completely turn it off to stop them turning it back on again. But some people have complained that these get re-enabled after you do a Windows update on Windows 11. Now, diagnostic and feedback is an area which is where Microsoft also harvests some information about your usage on the operating system and also the operating system itself, like hardware and things like that. Now, they give you a couple of options during the installation process of what option you want to use, whether you want to give them all of the information, full diagnostic and feedback information, or when you want to just go minimal. But you can't completely opt out altogether. You can't turn this off. No matter whether you turn this off in group policy or using some sort of script, you can't completely opt out altogether. Now, you can see and view the data, and you can also delete this data. And also the feedback frequency here, you can say never, but you won't be able to completely opt out of giving them some form of information because it's just not possible. So all you're going to do is abide by their rules, which is basically turn a lot of this stuff off, and that's all you're going to be able to do and set this up. You can either set it up manually by turning it all off like I've got here, or you can use some form of script or program or whatever it is you want to do to completely disable this, but it's not going to stop some information being sent back to Microsoft on the back end. You're not going to be able to see it, but it will be sent back to Microsoft. Now, what I'd advise you to do is go through Windows privacy and security settings and turn off just about everything that you don't need, and keep the stuff that you do need turned on, but all the stuff you don't need, go through and turn off. For instance, location and things like that. If you don't use the locational service, and sensors that Microsoft have in their operating system, you can turn all this stuff off. You can either set up registry keys to completely set a policy on it, or use Group Policy Editor, or use programs to turn a lot of this stuff off very quickly if you want to, like Shut Up 10. It does a lot of that stuff for you. I'll show that a little bit later on in a video, but you should go through and turn a lot of this stuff off to protect your privacy as much as you can. So let's quickly talk about recall, because recall was a big topic and a lot of people don't want it. I particularly don't want it on my system. But when you type WinVer here and you can see we're running 24H2, for some reason, recall suddenly showed its face inside here. So let's go ahead and open up command prompt and run this as administrator. And if you type out this command here, you can see whether recall has been enabled. Now, regardless of whether this is enabled or not, it is not functioning as recall should, and it's not harvesting information as it is right here. This state where it's enabled right now is not already in full recall mode and copying and taking snapshots of all your information. It's not doing that. But if you want to disable it, you can use another command to disable it, which I would advise you to do. Now, recall was supposed to be for, Copilot plus PCs, and they have to have an NPU and stuff like that. At the moment, we don't have that on a normal system. So this is not fully active and it's not fully functioning like recall should. But it's always good to disable this, and you should disable it, in my personal opinion, rather than leaving it enabled. Now, even with disabled, I think Chris Titus Tech on his first video said, even with this disabled, it's still running. And that's not true. Once this has been disabled, it's completely off. It's not even collecting data right now and harvesting your information and send it back to Microsoft. But I'd advise you to, disable it, because there's no point having a feature enabled if you're not going to be using recall on your system. And I'm not sure why it's there, but Microsoft will make that clear in the future. So we're going to use this command here to disable recall, and you can push enter and you can see it's disabling that feature, and say yes to restart your PC, and it will go off and restart your system. And once it's restarted, recall will then be disabled. Okay, so we should be back now at the desktop here. And once you're back at the desktop, I just want to quickly check to see whether this is disabled. So what we're going to do is quickly go to the start button here, and we're going to open up command prompt, type CMD and run this as administrator. And again, we can run that command here just to check to see whether it's been disabled. Now, of course, once this is disabled, it's not going to be running. And again, you're opting out of recall. But again, like I said before, this is not the full recall application where it's all set up ready to run recall on this computer, because it's not a Copilot plus PC and it needs an NPU to function properly as recall as of today. But that's not to say that that's not coming for the future. Once Intel and AMD find some way of implementing, the technology that's needed to run recall properly on a normal system, maybe they're going to be putting it onto motherboards, or maybe it's going to be in the CPU. I really don't know. But at the moment, it's not fully functional on a normal standard system. So let's talk about applications and how you can use these to basically turn off a lot of stuff that you don't need. So if you're a bit concerned about privacy, then using programs like Shut Up 10, or even Chris Titus Text Tool, which is the ultimate Windows utility here, or you can use other things like scripts or things like this, which will completely disable a lot of telemetry, bloatware, and stuff like that. Or you can even go as far as using things like scripts and things like that, batch files. They all do the same sort of thing, and it just saves you a bit of time. So let's go ahead and take a look at what we've got here. You can see that disable Windows Copilot plus recall, it's going to do that for you. And it's going to do a bunch of stuff like protect your privacy and control locational services. And it's going to disable telemetry on Microsoft Office and things like that. So these programs can speed up the process, but basically all they're doing is creating like little policies to turn this sort of stuff off. So we'll take a look at this and download it, and we'll get this downloaded and we'll install it. So there it is right here. Once you open this up, it's going to open up an application like this. So right here we have the application open, and you can see here under the actions panel here we can apply only the recommended settings, which is what they recommend you do. This is all the stuff in green that they recommend that you turn off, right, or turn on to disable it. So let's go ahead and you can go through here and have a look. Then we've got a bit more of an aggressive approach, which is recommended and somewhat recommended settings. And these are in sort of a yellow or amber type color here. And you can see them all listed here. And then we've got apply all settings, which are in red, which is obviously not recommended because it may do changes to the system that you might need. For instance, here, disable smart screen filter. This is to protect you, and it will disable that if you use the red setting here. Now, you can do these one at a time manually, or you can go in here and use this right here. So if you want to basically go in here and turn these off and on manually yourself like that, you can do, or you can go here and use something like this. So really, when you run something like this, it's done 213 settings have been successfully set. And you click OK, and that's it. Once you go into the settings here, when we restart Windows, you'll see these policies that have been set here. Now, if we did the yellow option, it's going to disable news and interests in the taskbar. So let's go ahead and do that one as well. So we're going to do this and click OK. So 2 settings has been successfully set here. So the only thing you might need to watch out for when you're doing stuff like this is to make sure that it's not disabling stuff that you might need. For instance, microphone and things like that. So just be careful because it will disable stuff if you get too aggressive with it. So you can see here, disable the app access to microphone. You might need this to talk on Discord and things like that. And if this is enabled like this, you're not going to be able to talk on Discord. So using the yellow setting will disable things like this. So if you do need it, you will have to come in here and put this back. Otherwise, it's not going to work. Same thing for your camera as well. So I'll leave this like this for now, and we'll take a look once I close this off. Let's restart Windows. And here we are back at the desktop. So let's go back into our settings panel here and go in here. And when you click on places like location, you'll see that it says some of these settings are managed by your organization. So this is basically set a policy to disable a lot of this stuff. And in Windows 11 Pro and Windows 10 Pro, you can do a lot of this inside the group policy editor. So really all it's doing is it's doing a lot of this stuff for you. It's in a program and it's running all of these in one go. And you can do that inside group policy editor once you've saved all your settings. And I've showed you how to do that in previous videos. So inside here, if I put group policy editor, you'll see here, I'll open this up. And once we go inside here, I can go to the location where a lot of these things are generally located. For instance, app privacy. When I go in here, you'll see that these have not been configured, and these are what you can configure. And this is a lot of these settings right down here. So let me just show you so you can see. These are the settings that are all down here. So let me go ahead and I'll show you exactly what I mean. So I'm going to go back into that application, and what we're going to do is open this up, and we are going to come back in here, and what I'm going to do is reset these. So what you can do is undo all of the factory back to factory settings. So I'm going to say yes here. I'm going to say yes, system error, restore point. Okay, that's fine. Okay, so it's gone ahead and reset all of these back. So I need to restart the PC again. So we're back at the desktop, and what I'm going to do is open up the group policy editor one more time here. And we're going to go back inside here. And what I'm going to do is I'm just going to quickly show you. So right here under Windows components, we've got app privacy. And right here, you can see here. So I can do one of these. Let me just do this location, access location. So I'm going to go inside here, and what we're going to do is enable this policy. And from here, you'll see false deny, apply, okay. And we've just done the location, right? So right here, if we look inside here now, because we reset all of these, but if I go here now, because I've set that policy already, you'll see that it's gone. Some of these settings are managed by your organization. That's because we've just set this policy right here. But if we look at the other ones, you'll see that they are all reset. So I could literally go in here and do exactly the same thing and turn a lot of these off. So let's have a look at contacts. So let's go in here and go to contacts. Same thing, enable, and then false deny. And there we go. So let's go ahead and look at contacts. We need to go back and then go back into contacts. And there we go. So that's all it's doing. So that's basically all it's doing. It's creating policies, and it has it in its own area. And you can do the same thing with things like batch files, and you can do the same thing with other tools like Titus text tool and things like that. So one of the things that I see people talking about when they talk about this tool, although this tool is a really nice tool that Titus text puts together, it doesn't mean that you're getting anything special. It's nothing that it's doing to your system that you can't do yourself. And this is the problem. A lot of people think that this is doing something really magnificent on the back end, and it's doing something to stop Microsoft from collecting data. But really all it's doing is exactly what a group policy is doing, or a registry edit is doing, or a setting that you've toggled on. That's all it's doing. So let's go ahead and we'll open up the terminal here. And from here, if you wanted to use this tool, which everyone likes to use, we're going to open this up. And it's going to open up the application here. You'll see it come and open. And there you go. So now you would go to, obviously, your tweaks. And then you would choose the standard or minimum and stuff like that. So if you went standard, all it's going to do here is make a bunch of changes. It's going to create a restore point, delete temporary files. And you can see here, telemetry. And there is, you can actually look at the code of this because it's open source and you can see how this works. And really, the same thing is no different to running something like a batch file, which I'll show you right here. So let's right click and run this as administrator and say yes. And all we need to do here is just quickly push enter here. And we can run this batch file, and it's going to make changes to the system settings. And it will do it all for us very quickly. Let me just quickly type yes here. And there we go. And once that's run, it will do the same thing. And it will take a little bit of time to run. And once that's done, we can push the start button, go into settings, privacy and security. And when you click on here, you'll see some of these settings are managed by your organization. It's all been turned off. And these are just, entries that we've made. Group policy edits and also registry edits that we've made, all by running that batch file. It's that simple, and you're going to get the same results. So once we've done this, this is all you basically can do to protect your privacy. What happens on the back end is we'll never know. So at the end of the day, you've pretty much done all you can do by changing some of the Windows settings, which is what Microsoft say you can do. But you're never ever going to be completely 100% private while using a Windows operating system, and that's because it's Microsoft operating system and they can do pretty much whatever they like. You do have a choice to use other operating systems if you don't feel like you trust Microsoft anymore, but privacy is a big problem, and it's not just Microsoft, it's pretty much the whole internet. There's everywhere you go, there's going to be some sort of concern with privacy. So whatever way you choose to do your privacy settings, I would advise you to literally turn off what you can, whether you use Group Policy Editor, whether you use a batch file, whether you use some sort of program like Shut-Up10 or Titus text tool, whatever way you want to do it. If you want to use that, then you can turn it all off. But whatever method you use, whether you do it manually, you should end up with something looking like this. And that's about as far as you can take it. It doesn't necessarily mean you're going to be completely telemetry free on Windows and you have got your privacy back, but you've clawed back as much as you can while using Windows operating systems. And also remember that privacy is not just a Microsoft problem, it's a major problem. If you're on the internet, you're pretty much giving up your privacy. You don't have any privacy when you're on the internet. Whether you are talking about your ISP or whether you're talking about a VPN, your browsers you use, the operating system you use, software you're using, pretty much everything you do online, Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, they all harvest information and they're all collecting it and using it. And unfortunately, it's just the way of the world we live in today. So if you're one of those people that don't like any of that stuff, then, just don't be on the internet, because that's basically the answer to it. Anyway, but that said, I think that's going to be about it. My name has been Brian from briteccomputers.co.uk. Big shout out to my YouTube members. I really appreciate the support, and I shall catch you in the next video. Bye for now.